Emily Carter and her rival, Jason Mitchell, never imagined that a festival of art and freedom would become the stage for murder. What began as a night of creativity at Burning Man quickly spiraled into a chilling mystery when Emily was found burned, but forensic experts revealed a shocking truth: the fire was a cover-up. The real cause of death would shock the world and expose a deadly obsession hiding behind masks, music, and art. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly under the blazing sun, its vast emptiness dotted with colorful tents, intricate art installations, and hundreds of people moving to the pulse of music that carried across the dunes. Burning Man was more than a festival, it was a pilgrimage, a temporary city of freedom, self-expression, and radical creativity. Among the attendees was Emily Carter, a 28-year-old artist from Los Angeles whose life revolved around color, form, and imagination. She had poured months of effort into her latest creation, a massive sculpture of twisting metal and glowing LED lights that she hoped would capture the attention of the festival's ever-curious crowd. This year, she felt something different, a surge of anticipation she hadn't felt before, as if her art would finally earn her the recognition she had long sought. Emily arrived at Burning Man with a small crew of friends, all artists and dreamers themselves. They set up camp near the outer edges of the festival grounds, in a quieter area where they could work on their projects undisturbed. The desert's harsh beauty seemed to fuel Emily's imagination, and she spent long hours sculpting and assembling her piece, pausing only to admire the vastness of the sky or watch the occasional sandstorm sweep across the landscape. The nights were intoxicating, alive with music, fire, and the glow of countless art installations lighting up the darkness like constellations fallen to earth. But amidst the excitement, something in the air felt different that year. There was a subtle tension among some of the festival goers, whispers of rivalries and hidden resentments that Emily mostly ignored. She was used to the competitive undercurrents that sometimes flowed through the artist community, but this time, the unease seemed to follow her more closely. On the first night, after a long day of final adjustments to her sculpture, Emily attended a small gathering near her installation. She laughed, mingled, and admired the work of others, yet in the back of her mind lingered a nagging feeling that she was being watched more closely than usual. By the next morning, the festival had erupted into its usual chaotic energy, with music thundering across the desert and crowds moving between campsites and art pieces. Emily's absence was initially overlooked, lost in the whirlwind of activity, but as hours passed without any sign of her, concern began to spread among her friends. Messages went unanswered, and her campsite appeared untouched, her belongings still neatly arranged as if she had never left. The unease that Emily had sensed the night before now became real fear. People started to search, calling her name across the empty desert, their voices swallowed by the wind. The festival's vibrant colors and pulsing energy now felt hollow and distant, a stark contrast to the growing worry that something terrible had happened to Emily. The shadows of the desert seemed to grow longer, and the first whispers of a mystery began to circulate, hinting at a story that would soon shock everyone at Burning Man. The discovery came unexpectedly, in a quiet area far from the bustling heart of the festival. A group of campers had ventured toward the outskirts of the desert, searching for a spot to view the sunrise, when they stumbled across a sight that froze them in place. Emily Carter's body lay partially buried in the sand, near the remains of a small fire pit that had been hastily extinguished. The scene was chaotic yet deliberate, as if someone had gone to great lengths to stage it. The immediate thought of an accident crossed their minds, a fire gone wrong in the midst of the festival's chaos. But nothing about the scene fit the usual patterns of such incidents. Her body bore the unmistakable marks of burns, blackened and blistered in irregular patterns across her skin. Yet forensic experts quickly noted something strange. The burns were inconsistent, almost artificial, concentrated in certain areas while other exposed parts remained untouched. Around her, personal items, her backpack, art tools, and sketches were scattered but not stolen. Even her small journal, filled with plans and notes for her sculpture, lay open and undisturbed. This was not a robbery, nor was it a careless accident. Whoever had done this had been careful, calculating, and perhaps even cruel in their approach. The surrounding desert offered few clues. Footprints were minimal and difficult to trace in the shifting sand, and there were no signs of a struggle. The fire pit nearby showed evidence of a small flame, but lacked the intensity that would cause such extensive burns on a human body. Investigators began to piece together the chilling possibility that someone had tried to disguise the true nature of Emily's death. The isolation of the location suggested premeditation. Whoever had committed this act had studied the festival's movements, chosen a secluded spot, and manipulated the environment to create confusion. As news of the discovery spread through the festival grounds, a sense of fear and disbelief rippled through attendees. What was supposed to be a haven of creativity and freedom had become the setting of a grim and unthinkable crime. Friends and fellow artists tried to rationalize the situation, some refusing to believe that such a tragedy could happen in their midst, while others whispered suspicions and theories about who could commit such an act. The image of Emily, vibrant and full of life just days ago, now contrasted sharply with the grim reality of the desert scene. The beauty of the festival, its music, its art, its fiery energy was overshadowed by the darkness that had crept into the sands. Every detail of the discovery seemed to point to a deliberate attempt to confuse and mislead, leaving detectives to unravel a mystery that went far deeper than anyone had initially imagined. The autopsy revealed a truth that sent shockwaves through the investigation. Emily Carter had not died from the fire at all. Hours before her body was found burned, she had been poisoned with a rare neurotoxin, one so potent that even a small dose could paralyze the body and stop the heart within minutes. The revelation shattered initial assumptions, proving that the fire had been staged as a cruel diversion, designed to make it appear as though her death had been accidental. Forensic experts were astounded by the precision of the crime. The burns were intentionally applied after death, a macabre attempt to mask the true cause and complicate the investigation. Toxicology reports indicated that the neurotoxin had been administered in a way that left no immediate trace at the scene. Investigators realized that the perpetrator had an intimate knowledge of Emily's habits, movements, and the festival itself. Someone had waited for the perfect moment, ensuring that the poison would work swiftly and leave no room for rescue. The act required patience, planning, and a cold disregard for human life, raising urgent questions about motive. Why target Emily, a talented artist whose only crime seemed to be her ambition and creativity? As detectives delved deeper into her life, a web of jealousy and rivalry began to emerge. Emily had recently been in conflict with a fellow artist who resented her growing recognition. This rival had made veiled threats in the weeks leading up to the festival, fixating on Emily's success and her potential to outshine others. Witnesses recalled seeing unfamiliar figures lingering near Emily's campsite, seemingly observing her every move. Their presence had gone largely unnoticed in the chaos of the festival, but in hindsight, it suggested premeditation. The combination of opportunity, obsession, and access to dangerous substances painted a chilling picture of a calculated murder. Investigators faced the daunting challenge of piecing together events that unfolded in the sprawling, chaotic environment of Burning Man. The festival's unique nature, its vast open spaces, transient population, and unconventional lifestyles had provided the killer with both cover and opportunity. Clues were sparse, hidden and fleeting glances, hurried movements, and minor interactions that had seemed insignificant at the time. Every discovery brought new questions. How had the toxin been obtained? Who had the skill and audacity to use it? And perhaps most unsettling of all, had the killer planned to strike again? Or was Emily chosen for reasons more personal and disturbing than anyone could imagine? The hidden cause of death transformed the case from a tragic festival accident into a deliberate act of murder, revealing the lengths someone could go to conceal their crime. As investigators examined the evidence, it became clear that the truth behind Emily's death was more sinister than anyone had anticipated, setting the stage for revelations that would shake the festival community to its core. The investigation into Emily Carter's death intensified as detectives combed through every detail of the festival. Burning Man, with its sprawling desert landscape and temporary city of thousands, had initially seemed an impossible place to track a killer. Yet, as investigators pieced together witness statements, surveillance footage, and forensic evidence, a clearer picture began to emerge. One camper recalled seeing a figure in a hooded cloak moving stealthily near Emily's installation late at night, carrying a small, unmarked bottle. Though the footage was grainy, it became a critical piece of evidence. The bottle's residue matched the neurotoxin that had taken Emily's life, proving that her death had been carefully planned and executed by someone who knew the festival intimately. The detectives discovered that Emily's rival had been obsessed with her work for months. This obsession had grown into a dangerous fixation, fueled by jealousy and the belief that her ideas were his. He had studied her patterns, learned her routines, and even monitored her interactions with other artists. The rival's knowledge of the festival's layout and timing allowed him to strike without immediate detection, moving through the desert like a shadow. Every action was calculated, from the timing of the toxin administration to the staging of the fire that would obscure the true cause of death. Investigators realized that Emily had been deliberately chosen, her prominence and visibility making her both a target and a symbol. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered additional signs of premeditation. Security footage showed the killer arriving at the festival with minimal luggage, but among his belongings were containers and tools that suggested he had brought the neurotoxin intentionally. Witnesses also described his erratic behavior, a mix of charm and obsession, as he tried to ingratiate himself with the community while quietly plotting his crime. The evidence painted a disturbing portrait of someone capable of immense cruelty, someone who could mask malicious intent behind the guise of an artist participating in a world of creativity and self-expression. The festival community, meanwhile, struggled to process the horror of what had happened in their midst. Friends of Emily recounted her vibrant energy, her dedication to her craft, and her dreams of making a name in the art world. The contrast between the warmth of her life and the calculated cruelty of her death created a wave of fear and disbelief. Artists who had come seeking inspiration now looked over their shoulders, aware that someone they had trusted or at least not suspected was capable of murder. Every mask, every costume, every figure blending into the desert could now hide a deadly intent, transforming the festival's lively energy into a tense environment of suspicion. Detectives, however, persisted, following the trail of evidence with painstaking attention. Fingerprints, DNA traces, and the analysis of toxicology all pointed to a single individual. The meticulous planning behind Emily's death left no room for doubt that this was the act of someone who had carefully engineered every step. The secrets behind the masks were no longer just metaphorical. The killer's identity was slowly coming into focus, revealing a truth as chilling as the desert night itself. The final pieces of the investigation fell into place as detectives zeroed in on the person responsible for Emily Carter's death. Forensic evidence, combined with the surveillance footage and witness accounts, pointed unmistakably to a single individual, her artistic rival, a man whose obsession with Emily had quietly festered into a deadly intent. His careful disguise, his knowledge of the festival's terrain, and his manipulation of the chaos around him had nearly allowed him to escape detection. But every meticulous plan leaves a trace, and the investigators had followed each one until the trail led directly to him. Authorities arranged for his arrest as the festival came to an end. He had returned to his home city, unaware that detectives had already collected sufficient evidence: fingerprints on the fire pit, residue from the neurotoxin container, and DNA traces linking him to the poison. When confronted, the man's calm demeanor crumbled under questioning. His confession revealed a chilling combination of envy, obsession, and entitlement. He admitted that he had meticulously studied Emily's movements during the festival, waited for the perfect moment to administer the neurotoxin, and then set the fire to obscure the real cause of death. Every detail had been calculated to mislead investigators and mask the deliberate nature of his crime. The revelation that Emily had died from poisoning, not the fire, stunned the world and shocked the festival community. Her death, initially assumed to be a tragic accident, had in fact been a premeditated murder, executed by someone who had exploited the festival's environment and its culture of openness. For many, it was a reminder that even spaces designed for freedom and creativity are not immune to darkness. The seemingly magical desert city, with its music, art, and lights, had become the backdrop for a crime born from jealousy and obsession, shattering the perception of safety and innocence that attendees had long held. In the aftermath, the story of Emily Carter's murder spread worldwide, drawing attention to the hidden dangers of unchecked obsession and the extremes some individuals might go to satisfy their envy. Her friends and family mourned deeply, reflecting on her talent, ambition, and the life that had been cruelly cut short. The art she left behind became both a memorial and a testament to her spirit, a reminder of the vibrancy she brought into the world. Even as darkness intruded, the arrest and confession brought justice, but the haunting truth of how meticulously the crime had been orchestrated lingered. Emily's story transformed from a festival tragedy into a cautionary tale, emphasizing that appearances can deceive, and that even in places of joy and celebration, the human capacity for malice can strike with terrifying precision. Her death left an indelible mark on Burning Man, forever changing how the festival community viewed the desert, its masks, and the shadows that can hide behind even the brightest flames.